what's up guys, and welcome back to MOV+. I hope you've had a good week so far. Our workout today is going to have 3 parts to it, so we're going to kick things off with the warm-up, get the body primed to get it ready to go. And then we'll go into the build workout, which is going to be a couplet of split squats and alternating Russian swings. We then have the move workout, which is going to be a little bit longer. It's going to be 12 minutes, and it's an AMRAP. There'll be 4 movements we go through for that one, which we'll touch base on when we get there. Once it's all done, we'll cool down with some stretching. So as for now, guys, we're going to warm up. First thing we're going to do is 1 minute of cardio of your choice. So we're going to go with running on the spot, which is going to look like this. So it's a running high knees, and we do that for the minute straight. From there, the next 2 minutes are going to be made up of 30 seconds of jumping jacks, which are going to look like this, into 30 seconds of Samson stretch. So you'll go through 2 cycles of that to make that middle 2 minutes up. And then the last 2 minutes are going to have a similar format, but the movements are going to be burpees for 30 seconds. So chest to ground and then up to a jump. And the last one there is reverse lunges. So again, you'll do 2 cycles of that to make up that last 2 minute block. Good to go, Maddie? Yep. All right, starting in 10. So 1 minute of cardio of your choice, guys. You can pick whatever you want to do here. You can do the same as us if you want. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So Maddie's just working on staying nice and sort of light and bouncy on the balls of his feet. So the heels aren't going to contact the ground, or if they do, it's very, very light, very minimal. And we're aiming for the knees to come up around hip height, just so we can kind of mobilize things, get everything nice and warmed up. Obviously, he's going to be using those arms as well. So nice full body movement with this one. As I said though, you can pick whatever you want, guys. You can mix in any kind of movements as long as they're nice and straightforward, and as long as the body feels good to roll straight into that movement. This is obviously the first cab off the rank, so you want to make sure it's not anything too aggressive or too heavy or anything like that the body's not going to like. If you've been sitting down or you haven't been moving around too much today, you want something that's nice and smooth to roll into. So in about 15 seconds, we're going to push into that middle section. So remember, it's 2 minutes worth of 30 seconds on jumping jacks, 30 seconds of Samson stretch. 5 seconds, 3, 2, 1, and going for jumping jacks. So 30 seconds on here, guys. We are jumping the feet in and out. So similar kind of deal to that, the running high knees, in that we're going to be mostly on the balls of the feet, nice and springy out and in, and then arms are going nice and long from the thighs up to overhead. So you just want to get a nice kind of steady pace. You don't need to sprint out of the gates. The warm-up is all about just kind of bridging the gap from whatever you've been doing to what we're going to do, which is the hard stuff for build and move. All right, switching it up, going to Samson stretch. So this one is typically more aimed at sort of more the mobility side of warming up. Obviously, running high knees, jumping jacks, that's a little bit more cardio. That's about getting the body temperature up, getting the heart rate up, getting the blood flowing. This is going to be a little bit more kind of like flossing the joints, moving things around, and just getting everything to open up really well. So it's a nice long lunge. I generally prefer to go like a slightly longer lunge than I would normally do for a workout. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So we're back on the jumping jacks for that second cycle. Just keeping a nice steady cadence. As you feel your body warm up and everything start to loosen up, that's when you can start to increase the tempo if you want to. Again, it's just all about that bridging the gap between maybe sitting at your laptop or driving or whatever it is you're doing, to then moving into the build section or the move section, whichever one you're doing. 3, 2, 1. Now when you do the Samson stretch, guys, you'll notice we've got an upper body component to this as well, which is the arms reaching to full lockout and then stretching over the top. And it's going to match up with whichever leg is stepping out in front. So Maddie's going to go his right leg, which means he's going to stretch to the right. We want to find that we get a little bit of like hip flexor quad that'll kind of travel up through the side of the abs into the lats there. So we get a lot of things on this one. 3, 2, 1. So we're onto burpees now. So this is that final 2 minute block. Going from a standing start, we come down chest to ground at the bottom, and then a jump and a clap at the top. So just moving along, steady pace. Thinking about how we're moving, not just kind of crashing into the bottom or anything like that. So nice hand placement, nice and controlled to the bottom. 3, 2, 1, and reverse lunges. So this will be similar at the bottom to the Samson stretch, only we don't have to do the arm motion, and this will probably be slightly shorter, right? This one we're trying to aim for everything to kind of square up, get 90 degrees at both knees, posture nice and tall, whereas the Samson we wanted to see a little bit longer, a little bit more exaggerated. Three, 2, 1, and back on the burpees. Now, the top of this movement, guys, you want to see nice open hips. We'll be doing that jump and that clap or hand contact above the head. Sometimes people get a little bit kind of ahead of themselves and they do the jump, but with the hips still closed. So we want to try and match Maddie's position where he's going to get nice and upright. Everything's a straight line through the body as he hits that jump. 3, 2, 1, and back on the lunges. So good amount of focus on the foot that is out the front. So Maddie's left leg at the moment, right? That heel staying on the ground. And this is one of the issues. If you step too short, that front knee will try to press too far forward and it will generally kind of peel the heel up, overloading the knee. So we want to feel like we're sitting back, getting good purchase on that heel. 3, 2, 1, and done. All right, so that's the warm-up done, guys. Have a little bit of chill, and then we're gonna check out build next. All right, so we're gonna check out the build section now, guys. This one has a 10-minute time frame on it, and we're gonna be going through 4 rounds of the following. So first movement is a split squat, which is gonna look like this. So lunge set up, okay, and we're gonna be lightly tapping that knee to the ground. And you'll notice with this, he's not changing the legs yet, right? He's gonna do all of his reps on one side, and then he'll switch. So we're looking at 10 on the right and then 10 on the left, just moving straight up and down. From there, we're gonna move into 20 alternating Russian swings. So with this one, guys, you're gonna do a little hand change at the top. Okay, so it's that nice hip extension, switching hands at the peak of the movement. Okay, now we've got to get 4 sets done in 10 minutes, so it's roughly gonna be about every kind of 2 or 3 minutes we need to get this done. Obviously, we wanna factor in a little bit of rest time in there as well in between the rounds. Good to go? Yep. All right, starting in 10. So we're gonna look at the split squat as an unweighted one first, and then we'll look at how we can add a little bit of resistance to it on the next round, and go for it. So we're setting up basically the same kind of stance we had for the lunges, the reverse lunges in the warm-up. So everything's looking nice and squared up there. You can see Maddie's lead leg has that shin vertical, so it's not knee forward, it's not knee back, it's stacked knee over ankle. And that body is straight up and down, so there's no lean there, he's not hip hinging or anything like that, and he's not pressing off his knee either. So we'll go for 10 and then we'll switch out. So once he gets to 10 on this second leg, we're going to switch into that alternating Russian swing. All right, so when we set up for this one, guys, you want to have enough space to get the dumbbell or kettlebell or whatever it is you're using through the legs. So it's generally a wider than shoulder width stance. And we are doing the hand change at the top of the swing. So when it's at about eye level, and that's the part of the name is Russian kettlebell swing, refers to where the kettlebell finishes, and that's going to be at eye level, as opposed to like an American style swing, which is all the way up to overhead. So key things as far as body position goes, guys, is that Maddie's back stays straight the entire time. So the place we're really having movement is at the hip and a little bit at the knee. Not too much, but just a little bit just to kind of soften that position. So we do 20 of those, which end up being 10 each side. And then we're resting. So we'll rest through to about the 2:30 marker, so we space these sets out nicely in that 10-minute window. And on your rest, you can just kind of walk around, catch your breath, get some water in. I always like to think about, have a think about how your technique went on that one, what felt solid, what felt like maybe needs a little bit of refinement. Also think about, am I using the right weight for the movement? So 20 more seconds and we'll get the next one underway. 10 seconds. So with this one, Maddie, I'm going to get a front rack one of the dumbbells. Okay. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So back on the split squat, guys. So this is one of the positions we can add some resistance to it. Maddie did an unweighted version last time, which is good if you don't happen to have access to gear at home. That's totally fine to do that. You can make that more challenging by slowing it down even more, or you can add weight to it. So this could be a dumbbell, kettlebell, loaded backpack, just any kind of heavy object. Main thing is that he's going to keep it nice and close, so it's close to kind of the center of his gravity of his body. We want to make sure it's not sort of out away from us or lopsiding us too much or anything like that. And then all the rest of the mechanics stay the same. So that's the key thing there. We don't want to put a big sandbag on our back and have us kind of tilted over and getting in a bad position. We still want to have the same upright torso that we had in the non-weighted version. Now with the hand switch, guys, this does add kind of an element of coordination and control to it. So good sometimes to have a little bit of a practice of this before you actually get into the workout, and also make sure that you're doing it somewhere that is safe. If you do happen to accidentally drop the dumbbell, obviously don't do it with anything fragile around, or don't do it in front of the TV where it's going to smash through the screen or anything. Make sure you're in a good safe space and rehearse the movement. Practice that hand switch. Do it slowly if you have to. Maddie's doing kind of like a hand over the top kind of a switch. You can also do like a neutral grip and go palm to palm like that as well. Either one of those is fine. You go with the one that feels most consistent for you. So 30 more seconds, we'll hit the next one. Ten seconds. We'll go dual dumbbells this time. So you go suitcase style. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So this is another setup, guys. If you happen to have more than one weighted object you can work with, and if it's just like 2 loaded backpacks, you might actually have physical suitcases that you've loaded up. That works well too, as long as you're not bottoming out. But this is just, again, going to make it a little bit more challenging. The fact that we've gone from a front rack down to a suitcase position is going to obviously have the weight lowered down, so probably the challenge of stability of it being like down the body is going to make it fractionally easier, but now we have a demand on the grip. So it's not that this version is any easier than the last one, it's just a different kind of challenge. Obviously allows us to add more weight too. If we've got 2 dumbbells versus 1, you can work a bit more on that strength side. Maddie's being nice and sort of flexible with that back foot. He's really allowing that heel to come up. He's not being kind of stiff and collapsed back into that heel and wanting to keep the heel low. He's really allowing it to pitch up onto the ball of the foot. So this is that different hand position I just mentioned before. Maddie's gone from an overhanding one to sort of like a palm to palm setup. So it's sort of thumb side up. Does make it slightly easier as far as the hand transition. You can kind of just let it go straight across. Allows you to slow it down a little bit too. But again, it's more about what's comfortable for you. If you like the other version better, that's fine too. And you're really going to make it about the hips and the legs, and especially the hamstrings and the glutes doing the work here. The arms are just kind of along for the ride. So they're not actually doing a physical, like a front raise. They're more just kind of continuing that momentum off the hips and maybe just decelerating a little bit on the way down just to make sure it controls right back with the timing. So we have one more round to go. We'll go at the 7:30 marker on that running clock. Okay, 10 seconds. We'll go just body weight on this one if you want, Maddie. We'll go back to that original version. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, one of the common errors that can show up, guys, if you are maybe a little bit tight, maybe your mobility is not crash hot through your hips, or maybe you've been sitting a lot today and your hip flexors are really tight, matted down, you can find that you have this kind of kinked forward position where we sort of end up really closing on that lead leg. We kind of pitch forward, start to press off, that sort of thing. You want to make sure, like, we can draw a straight line from Matty's head straight down his torso, down the front of his right thigh now that it's gone to the back leg. So it's a straight line down to the ground. Now, if you find you have a lot of trouble with this, it's worth doing a little bit of mobility, or even just literally just going into that bottom position just for a couple of minutes before you start this one and just freeing up through there. The other thing you can also do is set yourself up next to like a chair or a kitchen bench, one hand on there. You'll be surprised how much that allows you to kind of smooth things out and hit a much nicer position. We want to make sure we're not getting into a position where we've got to push up the leg and load up the back and all the rest of it. All right, so last set of the swings. We're going to go to that shoulder width or wider stance. Now, one thing I really love that Matty's doing here, because he's been taught very, very well, is that he's swinging his other arm along with the movement, right? So when I've got the dumbbell in the left hand, my right hand is going to follow the motion with me. And what that does is, although we will have a little bit of rotation through the torso, he's mostly staying square because the shoulders, everything is just basically, it's almost like there's a dumbbell in the other hand as well. And it keeps us nice and squared up to the front there, rather than kind of getting over rotated or having one kind of lazy arm. Everything's moving in unison. All right, nicely done. So that's the last one. We've got about 30 seconds left on the clock there. So if you're still going, that's cool. We'll let this timer tick away and then we'll check out the move section next. Three, 2, 1, and done. All right, so that is the build section done, guys. Grab some water, have a little bit of a relax, and then we'll get ready to do move next. Alrighty, we're gonna have a look at the move workout now, guys. This one is a 12-minute AMRAP. We've got 4 movements we're gonna cycle through. Each of those movements is 10 reps a piece. So the first one is gonna be a ground to overhead. So this one will go from the floor right up to lockout overhead. That can be done as Matty's done there, like a muscle snatch style, or you can even do a clean and press if you want to. We're gonna probably look more at that muscle snatch style today though. Next one is front squats. So we're gonna get the dumbbells in the front rack, squatting down nice and deep. From there we have a muscle clean. So with this one, we're gonna go from ground to shoulders, right? And notice with that he just stood straight up. There was no drop underneath. Give me a power clean, Matty, just so we can see the difference. So see the little drop, the re-dip underneath? That's not what we're after today. We're gonna go with the original one. So muscle clean one more time. Okay, it is straight up. We stand tall, we don't re-dip. Our last movement there is up downs. We'll go without the dumbbells for that one if you want. Yep. Okay, so that is just body weight. You don't need the dumbbells for that one, guys. It's just in and out and then standing nice and tall. And we're gonna repeat through that sequence for 12 minutes. Good to go? Yeah. All right, starting in 10. So 10 ground to overhead is up first. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So want to make sure that as we're driving up from that ground position, guys, you really take the time to set your spine in place. That'll be the same with the front squat, it'll be the same with the muscle clean. We never want to have a spine that's moving or changing shape along the way. We're going to stiffen it up, get it nice and straight so we've got a nice neutral spine. And then we're going to go from that ground position. Notice he's just touching the top ends of the dumbbells. You don't have to do a flat touch with both heads. The top there, he's got that head through in that nice lockout position. So once we finish 10, we're going to move to 10 front squats. So standing tall at the top, and then we're going hips below the height of the knee at the bottom. The stance about shoulder width, possibly even slightly wider. The toes slightly turned outwards, so making kind of like a V shape. Maddie's doing all of this workout with double dumbbells. You can obviously do it with single dumbbells, single kettlebell, whatever it is. Any weighted object is cool. All right, so moving to muscle clean. So this one, Maddie's gone from a wide stance on that grounder overhead to now a narrow stance, which I reckon is going to lend itself better to this position. Just allows us to have a nice clean line of action from ground straight to that front rack. And remember, the key component, the defining feature of a muscle clean versus any other one is that we don't re-dip or drop underneath it. So it's pure hip extension, and then the arms are finishing off the movement. So it's the clean equivalent of like a push press, where the legs create that first drive and then the arms finish it off. There's no kind of secondary action to re-drop underneath them. So once we get to 10, we're gonna go dumbbells to the side and we'll go into 10 up downs. So nice tall stand up at the top, nice long straight body at the bottom there. If you have trouble kind of knowing where that point is, where you're in a nice flat position, try to have some sort of marker, whether it's maybe the edge of carpet or tiles or floorboards, or you can put maybe some couch cushions off to the side. Obviously don't put it right where you're gonna put your feet, but off to the side as a marker. And that way when you hit that back position there, you know that you're always stepping back to your marker, and that way your body's kind of forced to be in that nice long push-up position. All right. Good strong start, Maddie, it's looking good. So that was just under a 3-minute round there. So 12 minutes of this, we'll be looking somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 rounds. We'll see how we hold up with fatigue along the way. Now the key to getting this one to move really well, and the muscle clean will be the same kind of story, is we want to get the legs and the hips to do all the work, or the majority of the work at the start, right? The arms will just remain straight. And once the legs and the hips are approaching that lockout, they hit that nice big hip pop, dumbbells are starting to travel because of that momentum, starting to lift, they get that kind of weightless moment, the arms then kick in. So a lot of it is about sequencing the movement right and coordinating that timing. If you get the arms going too early, like you can still do the movement, but it just means those arms are working twice as hard as they need to, and we're not fully utilizing the legs and the hips. Now with this front squat, guys, Maddie has got that double dumbbell set up, so front end's pointed up at the shoulders there. If you were working with a single dumbbell, you'd probably have it across the collarbones at the front. Kettlebell would be in kind of like almost like a goblet position, or you might even work with just a single front rack kettlebell and change sides each round. So long as that weighted object is on the front of your body, it's not kind of sat on the back of the shoulders or anything like that, and make sure that we're taking that challenge of having it front loaded. Now this muscle clean, guys, it's very easy for it to appear like a bicep curl, and it is very, very similar, especially that top portion where the arms turn over. But where a bicep curl would be kind of like an arc shape where the weight would go away from the body and then back in, this one we're trying to still maintain a fairly straight line of action. So as he comes up, those elbows are going to kind of go outward and backward a little bit with a big shrug, and the dumbbell will shoot straight for the shoulder. So it's almost like we're getting out of the way of the dumbbells versus standing and then slinging them out. Sort of a similar kind of arc pattern to like a kettlebell swing. One thing Maddie's doing here to make his job a little bit easier and keep this movement looking really smooth is he's going narrow stance at the back and then wide stance at the top, which allows him to get the hips really high, makes for a nice clean position. That as opposed to going narrow all the way through, which requires a lot more hamstring flexibility and is generally a much harder position to hit well. So feel free to do the same. You can scale this movement by having the front end elevated. So if you've got some steps, or if you've got a box or a bench or something, you can put your hands on that and do the same movement from there. It does make it a little bit more accessible. Okay, looking good for time there, Maddie. So just about to roll over the halfway marker. Now we mentioned when we were going through the demos of these movements before, this ground to overhead can be done as a single motion like Maddie's doing there, like a muscle snatch. It can also be done as a clean and press version. Now the clean and press one's slightly slower, but it's a little bit more robust in that if I get really tired, I can't quite generate the force to get there in one smooth motion. Maybe I'm starting to catch kind of short and having to do a weird half press out of the top. I can go to that clean and press version, and that just, even though it's slower, will allow me to keep moving through, keep the movement looking tidy. Doing good, Maddie. So moving to front squats next. I like that Maddie's got his elbows and his forearms kind of wound as far forward as he can get them, so he's not letting them kind of sit tucked back. It's making that space. You'll notice that his elbows and his hips will kind of move away from one another as he comes down, so he's reaching back into that seated position with his hips and reaching forward with his elbows in that rack. And if you find that at the bottom those heels want to kind of peek up off the ground a little bit, you want to roll up to the toes, that sort of stuff, slow it down, take some more time, allow that mobility to open up as you come down into it. Even use a squat marker like a chair or something like that to come down to. So moving through the muscle cleans, it's that same idea of sequencing the legs and hips first, into the shrug, and then that goes into that kind of modified sort of curl motion, that pull through. We look at Maddie's legs as he does this, he's keeping his knees the same width apart the whole time. Sometimes when we have, we're a bit fatigued and we're trying to rapidly hip extend, the knees will pinch in on one another. Okay, we want to make sure the glutes are strong and keeping the knees set where we want them to be. All right, so moving through the up downs now. Nice active shoulders. When he hits the ground there, he's going to go stiff at the arms. So that as opposed to like a burpee where we would sort of just soften and just kind of guide ourselves into the floor. We need to be a little more active through those triceps, through those shoulders. He's got nice and well practiced with this, so he knows exactly where those hips need to stop in the bottom there. He's not sagging through. So Maddie, let's look at a single dumbbell variation this time. So you're going to just grab both heads of one. We'll go ground over. So this will go from about mid-shin. You don't have to go from the actual floor itself. So this is our kind of single dumbbell, or maybe you used a kettlebell or a weighted backpack or something. If you've just got the one object, this is what it's going to look like. It's also a good backup plan if you feel like two dumbbells is getting too heavy to keep it tidy. We can start to move to this and continue working with good form and with good intensity. There's a slightly narrower grip, which does make the top a little more challenging mobility-wise to be able to get that head through, but it's usually a pretty good trade-off. Nice, Maddie, that's looking good. Okay, so front squat, so this is that across the collarbones setup we talked about earlier. All the rest of the body language is exactly the same though. The feet are still turned out, the heels down, knees still track with the toes, hips still initiate the movement, kind of reaching back and down, and then those elbows drive out as much as possible. One thing we sometimes see when people get tired is they start to put the head down as they're squatting. We want to make sure the head stays up, so nice high visual points. Maddie's looking kind of up across the room there. That makes sure that he doesn't tilt that head down, because then that's just added weight forward, which means that lower back has got to work that a little bit harder. Okay, this is that muscle clean now. So we're seeing the same mechanics. Going from a double dumbbell or double weighted object to a single, he's now switched to inside stance. So he's gone the feet wide, dumbbell down the middle. He's again got that really nice, just single line of action there. It goes straight up. There's no kind of curve away from the body. He's moving himself around that weighted object. Okay, about to roll on the last minute. Nice, Maddie. All right, I reckon we'll about time this to perfection. We'll go into the up downs. And Maddie uses kind of like a bounce return, which means he basically uses the elastic kind of rebound of his midline, his legs and everything to just come straight back out of that back position. If you're newer to this or you're not so fluent with this movement, guys, feel free to just pause at the back for a moment and then jump in. Allow yourself the time to coordinate the movements well, and then you can start moving to this rebound setup like Maddie's doing. Okay, last 10 seconds. I reckon we can get maybe a couple of those ground overheads. Three, two, one, and done. Nice work, Maddie, well done. Alrighty guys, that is the move section done. Have a little bit of a chill, and then we're gonna cool down with some mobility next. All right guys, so now that all the hard work's done, we're just gonna bring things down a little bit with some mobility work to finish off. So 2 drills we're gonna do. The first one is child's pose. So I'm gonna set ourselves up on the ground. Does work well if you get a little bit of padding under the knee, just because we're gonna be sitting here for a little bit. So I'm gonna chuck a timer on for 1 minute. I really like this one because it's simple and it's actually really nice to relax into. Some mobility drills can be quite uncomfortable. This one's very relaxing. So Maddie's split his knees apart. He can have the feet together or apart. Either one of them is fine. Main thing, he's got those arms stretched out as far as he can. So right out into the fingertips, getting the head and the chest close to the ground. So we're gonna find that the lats and shoulders get a really nice opening up for this. And you'll find that the low back into the hips get a little bit of stretch as well, which is nice. So this is gonna be our first drill. Not too much in the way of technique, it's just kind of sinking back, allowing yourself to really relax into it. Right, so the next one we're going to move to is just a lying hamstring stretch. So laying on our back, we're going to go one leg up, grabbing onto that calf, other leg straight out on the ground. We'll do 45 seconds each side on this one. So Maddie's allowing his head and his shoulders just to relax back onto the ground and kind of use the weight of his upper torso to draw back more on that leg. Now he's pretty flexible there, so he's got a pretty good position. He's getting back past the level of that hip. Even though there's a little softness in the knee, which is totally fine, okay? We can work on over time straightening that knee out a little bit more. If you find that you're further back, what we might do is if you want to bring your hands down to the back of your hamstring, yep. So that allows you to just get a little bit more range there, or a little bit more comfort in the position, I should say. 3, 2, 1, switching sides. So the more flexible you are, the higher up the leg you're going to be able to grab. So he might eventually be able to work up to his ankle, even onto his foot. Or you can use a band, a skipping rope, a belt, anything you've got just to loop it around your foot and draw back on that as well. But grabbing onto the back of the leg allows us just a nice easy setup. You can work with kind of different positions as well. You don't have to just sit static in the one spot. You can kind of sort of rock it back and forth. You can play around with bending and straightening the leg. As long as we're in that position where the hamstring feels like it's lengthened out. Just trying to breathe and relax through it. Alrighty, so those are our 2 drills, guys. Let's see a couple of rounds of that. Try to set some time aside to really loosen the body up after the workout. Otherwise, we will catch you next time, and that's been your Move Plus workout.